Party people. Tony Rowe here, recording a very quick video for everyone who is shut up in their house or apartments due to the coronavirus. So I thought I would show you guys one of my favorite chess problems. I believe this is by a gentleman named Votauva. I'm just butchering his name 100%. I'm a dumb American. And I think it was from 1962. So it's white to move, as with all chess problems. So pause the video if you need to, and take as long as you want. We all, as a country and as a planet, have a lot of time on our hands right now. So pause the video, go. Okay, we are back. So let's take a look at this one. The first thing that hopefully you guys notice is that white is down a lot of material. So if you're just starting with chess, a queen is worth 9 pawns typically, 9 of these boys, and knights and bishops are both worth 3 pawns each. So by that math, black has a queen, 9 pawns versus knight and bishop, that would be 6 pawns. And then white has a couple of extra pawns, but that's not super relevant. So white's down a bunch of material, and if given a couple moves, black will re-centralize his queen, probably to some square like e5, where it's nicely placed, and then white's going to be down a bunch of stuff and be losing. So that's the first thing to notice. The second thing you probably notice right away is that this queen is actually really unfortunately placed on the h3 square. It's completely trapped, except for the fact that it can go back to h5. And so once you notice that, it starts to maybe become clear that there's some kind of like knight e2 to knight f4, which would trap the queen. The knight on f4 both attacks the queen and also attacks its only retreat square. So if white had 2 moves, knight e2 to f4 would be winning. Another thing you might notice, the slightly more clever of you out there, is that if the bishop was on a different square, knight d5 would win. For instance, if the bishop was on this square, let's just imagine the bishop is on the b3 square for a second, knight d5 would win. Reason being is that knight f4 would again still be a threat, and trying to address that threat by moving the queen to h5 would lose to knight to f6 check, because the knight on f6 would fork the king and the queen, and white would be up a tremendous amount of material. So then you start to think, okay, how can I get this? One avenue of thinking is, okay, how do I get this bishop out of the way so I can just initiate this knight d5 idea of going knight f4, knight f6. And that turns out to be a little bit trickier than one might think, of course, because if you just go bishop b3, like I said, then queen h5, knight d5, and then black unfortunately has a free move to do whatever he wants to avoid this fork. So even just like something like king d8. I don't know if this is the best move, but that's a move. Queen e5, of course, would also be very good. So that doesn't work the way you would think it would. So back to the drawing board. Another obvious move would be like bishop to b7, and it's actually not the worst move ever. It doesn't win, but bishop b7, queen h5, knight d5, again threatening this fork, queen e5, centralizing the queen. This move is actually very important. I'm going to give it an exclamation point. Because on a6, black can actually start to bring the king over to like the queen side work and stop this a7 pawn, and for the moment white cannot go a7 because of queen d4 check, attacking the king and picking up this pawn at the same time. So but it's, even in this position, it's actually remarkably hard to win as black, just because the threat of always going a6 or a7, a8 is pretty tough. So this is not the solution. Okay, so let's go back. If I've given you hints, again, feel free to stop and pause the video again, where it's like, oh my god, okay, now I see, maybe there's some ideas here. The solution is a6 exclamation point, deflecting this pawn away from the c6 square, which will allow bishop to c6 check in a second. So a6, of course, if something like queen h5, then this pawn is just going to make a queen somehow. that's not going to work. A7, for instance, just A7, A8 check, and then black will be up, or white will be up a bishop and a queen, or a bishop and a knight. God, I can't talk. So black is pretty much forced to take. White goes bishop c6. And this is really the trick with this problem, is that now this bishop moves away from the d5 square with check. So let's just say king f8. Other king moves are possible. It doesn't much matter. Now the second issue comes up, because if you just go knight d5 right away, knight f6 is no longer check. So again, queen h5 would escape. If you go knight f6, then, you know, queen c5 check, for instance, attacks the king and the bishop at the same time. So you have a problem. Knight d5, not the solution. We still have to deal with this queen h5 nonsense. And so the move is, if you want to pause your video here, possibly, you might be able to find this move now that I've shown you a6, b takes a6, bishop c6 check, king f8. Bishop to e8. Brilliant. Stopping queen h5. The bishop guards it. The only way to not have the bishop guard it is to take it. But now knight d5. Knight f4 is still a winning threat. And now with the king on e8, queen h5 doesn't work. So if queen h5, for instance, no bueno, knight f6 check, king e7, knight takes here, white is completely winning. I guess the best, I haven't really thought about it, I guess the best black has would be something like, I don't know, king d7, allowing knight to f4, king d6, takes, but this pawn ending, very easily winning for white, king f2, king e5, king e3, and this pawn is going to make a queen. So that would be the end of the game. It's funny also, just something you'd never, usually in every chess composition, every single piece has a point, and like you start to wonder, okay, why the hell is this pawn on a2? And that, actually, now that I think about it, that's sort of a hint, right, that maybe this a pawn gets sacrificed, because otherwise the person who composed this problem probably would have just left this pawn off the board. There's never any irrelevant pieces in a composition, and the point is that after a6, when black allows this pawn ending, this a pawn is not passed now. I'm not saying, I don't know the verdict without well, it'd be winning for black, let's be honest, because if this pawn wasn't here, black would simply push this until white's king had to go all the way over here, and then he would take all of these pawns, and then he would probably queen one of these h pawns. I don't know that for sure, but I'd be you know, it's just an interesting little idiosyncrasy of this problem, that there's this extra a2 pawn that you're wondering, like, okay, why the heck is this thing here? But there you go. So again, a6, b takes a6, bishop c6, king f8, bishop e8, double exclam, both simultaneously preventing queen h5 and forcing the king back to the e8 square, so that this fork, this idea with knight d5 allows this fork again after this. So hey, that's it. I just wanted to make this quick video, upload it to YouTube really fast. I posted this problem on my Instagram story yesterday, and I got a couple of questions, a couple people who were confused, who got it wrong. So I just figured, heck, instead of sending them some chess notation, which is hell to type on your phone, I'll just make a video. Everyone can enjoy it. Hey, stay safe out there. You know, social distancing. Don't go anywhere you don't have to. Don't breathe on your friends. Don't cough on your friends. Don't cough on your grandparents. And, you know, quarantine yourselves till we have it under control. I hope everyone is safe and happy out there. Get some chess study done, man.